I've never seen my old handheld carts look as good as they do on the Analogue Pocket. The handheld solves the limitations of Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, and other handheld systems of yore, and it does so with a familiar but distinct style you won't find with emulation-based solutions. In other words, the Analogue Pocket is the best possible way to enjoy your retro handheld gaming collection. The Pocket first distinguishes itself as a high-end gaming solution with its packaging. It's not quite the same caliber as a new iPhone, but it's the kind of box you can put on a storage shelf and convince yourself never to recycle or throw it away. The screen is the feature most deserving of glowing praise. The 3.5-inch 615 ppi 1600 by 1440 display is absolutely overkill when compared to the 160 by 144 resolution screen of the original Game Boy and Game Boy Colors. It's closer to the display on an iPhone than it is to a dedicated handheld like the Switch OLED. Colors are bright and gorgeous, and every pixel is rendered in a magnificent crispness regardless of what system you're playing. The buttons on the Analogue Pocket are laid out nicely with two shoulder buttons on the back, bookending the cartridge slot. It seems like it should have been an awkward placement, but even with my large hands, I found them easy to reach and actuate. My one complaint with the button layout is the volume and wake sleep buttons are just too close together. On more than one occasion, I went to turn the volume down and accidentally put the Analogue Pocket to sleep. I actually shut it off trying to turn the volume down once, which led me to exercise extreme caution with any future volume changes. It's a small annoyance, but it's an annoyance nonetheless. Great news! The Analogue Pocket does exactly what you want it to do, which is play pretty much any Game Boy, Game Boy Color, or Game Boy Advance game you can think of. Kat Bailey and Rebecca Valentine were kind enough to dig through the IGN collection of handheld games to send me a really comprehensive and varied selection of Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance games. And, with one exception, the e-reader, which requires a separate $16 cable, I was able to play them all. Analogue's products use a system-on-a-chip architecture rather than emulation. In other words, all the parts and pieces that made up the electronics of your Game Boy and Game Boy Advance are just smushed down into an easy-to-swallow, field-programmable gate array. Because of this implementation, programs work as originally intended because the system for which they're designed is right there. It's not virtually pretending to be there, as is the case with emulators. This means a lot of the weird functionality that was built into some games' carts themselves still work great. Want to play Kirby Tilt and Tumble? Well, tumble on, my friends. How about the Game Boy Color version of Perfect Dark with a AAA battery-powered rumble pack built into the cartridge? Your pack will be rumbled. Analogue made sure to test out all sorts of the weird and wonderful experimentations in cart types. There's also an available Game Gear adapter you can pop into your Analogue Pocket to get even more use from it. There are also Atari Lynx, Neo Geo Pocket, and TurboGrafx 16 adapters in the works, which is exciting since not enough people have familiarity with those great little systems. Save states are supported with the launch firmware, something I personally couldn't live without. It's buried in the menus, but holding the analog button and up on the D-pad snaps a save. A lot of old games are hard, but not in skill-based or satisfying ways. They're unfair or bafflingly hard for no other reason other than making children sad. Apart from being able to cheese your way through some of the harder games with save states, something I will never judge a person for doing, by the way, it's great news for anyone who dug up an old favorite only to find the internal battery is flat. Your old save might be gone, but you can start fresh and not ever have to worry about it again. I definitely appreciate the addition to the Pocket, but keep in mind, a micro SD card is needed in order to save anything. The Analogue Pocket is an absolute delight. Playing old handheld games on a beautiful, bright, and vibrant screen never gets old, even if some of those old games maybe aren't quite as good as you remember. If you have a collection of handheld games or you're planning to start one, I highly recommend outfitting yourself with the Analogue Pocket, even if the $219 price tag seems a little steep. Playing on original hardware is great and all, but playing on perfectly replicated hardware that's equipped with a long-lasting USB-C rechargeable battery beats keeping a bandolier of AA batteries draped over your chest any day of the week. Retro enthusiasts looking to enjoy a pure experience on hardware rather than software emulation should absolutely add this to their collections. The HDMI dock opens up your collection to the world of streaming as well as game capture or just playing low-res games on a giant modern TV. Those old school pixels are so chunky, I just can't get enough of them. For even more handheld goodness, check out our look at the Steam Deck, and for everything else, keep it right here on IGN.